a special segment for a historic milestone. NASA's Artemis II mission is now well underway. The SLS rocket successfully lifted off yesterday evening from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, sending 4 astronauts on a 10-day journey around the moon. The crew, Commander Reed Wiseman, pilot Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen, has completed early orbit raising maneuvers and is currently in a high Earth orbit, preparing for the translunar injection burn. This marks the first crewed flight beyond low Earth orbit since Apollo 17 in 1972. Joining us on this broadcast to discuss this historic milestone is Dr. W. Selvamurthy, former Chief Controller of the DRDO. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out your time and for speaking to NewsX. Always appreciate it. So obviously we're looking at a very historic moment right now. Yesterday we were talking about how anticipated the nerves were regarding the launch, but now that has taken place and we are in fact looking at this entire capsule entering the higher Earth orbit, and they are preparing for the translunar phase. If you could help our viewers understand how important and significant that is, because this is when they will move on into deep space.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me at this discussion. And this is a very important milestone, a historical milestone in space research, space science and technology, because we are going to reach 400,000 kilometers above the Earth orbit. You know, that's huge. The travel beyond the low Earth orbit, most of the missions have been at low Earth orbit, but now carrying 4 astronauts above the low Earth orbit, getting into close to moon, and then revolving around the lunar orbit. It's 4 lakh kilometers. It's quite a long distance. So you have to first have the propulsion system, then you have to navigate in the deep space. That is again a big challenge, navigation. And then the other factors will be, how the spacecraft functions and its health, as well as the safety of the crew, because it's a crewed, manned space mission. Then this also carries a woman, first a black woman. That is again a unique feature of this mission. The first time a woman going at this altitude, at this orbit. And then the next important thing is it's a non-American, one of the non-American from Canada.
Right.
It's also part of the mission. So there are certain unique features of this mission. Then it's going to test many technologies, life support systems, crew performance, crew safety, and safe return. So all these are big challenges where you put humans into space and then bring them back safely is a big challenge. So the first thing they will be testing will be the crew compartment, where you have all the life support, oxygen generation, because you have to generate the oxygen. You cannot carry oxygen cylinders. You have to generate oxygen. Then you have to remove the carbon dioxide from the system. Thermal management, because you have a very huge the temperature gradients between the spacecraft and the ambient. So you need to regulate the temperature of the cabin. Then the next important thing is waste management. How would you handle this in a closed loop system? How would you handle the human waste? So these are the challenges in terms of human factors. Then you need to provide them fluid, also the food. So these are in a human space flight. Then there are also other psychological factors, like, for example, you are in an isolated, claustrophobic environment. It's a closed, small space within which 4 people have to live. So claustrophobic environment, isolation, sensory deprivation. Then your biorhythms gets disturbed because all our physiological functions, whether it's a cardiac heart function or breathing, metabolism, everything is related, it has a rhythm, biorhythm, circadian rhythm. That gets upset. Sleep gets upset because your sleep rhythm is adjusted to solar periodicity. So that gets disturbed. So there are so many human factor challenges, and also monotony, separation from family, fear of the unknown. All this will be impinged. So you have one side the low gravity situation, high level of radiation. Then you have the psychological factors. So these are the human factors which will be tested, because 10 days they are going to be in
Right.
this environment in deep space.
Right.
So that is a big challenge. Then you need to bring them safely back. So when you re-enter, the spacecraft re-enters the Earth environment, it encounters tremendous temperature on the surface. So how do you use the heat shield, special heat shield, which will take care of the high heat generated in the crew compartment? It should not be allowed to come inside. So there
Right.
are heat shield mechanism which will be used for safe re-entry. Then other thing they are testing in this is a trajectory in which there will be like a free fall. You know, the spacecraft, you switch off most of the propulsion system.
Right.
So when you re-enter and come back to Earth, they are going to use a system which will be, it will be a passive descent due to the gravitational pull. So these are certain, some of the important things which will be tested. And the other important thing which they will be testing is the Orient crew capsule,
Right.
and which will also be testing. Then, you know, ultimately this will lead to the third mission, Artemis III,
Yes.
which is going to be people landing on the moon and the southern part of the moon, southern pole, close to the southern pole. So
Yes.
this will be next year. They have planned it for next year. So this mission is very critical, because now they are not going to land into the moon, but they are going to circle around the moon in the
Right.
lunar orbit. But next mission, that is Artemis 3, will get into the moon, and then they will be doing maneuvers. So the crew operational efficiency is important, because they are not just going to be there passively. They have to do certain jobs there. So because, you know, you have the reserves available, resources like water, helium, energy. So how do you bring it to the earth? Minerals. So all these will be the future missions. Then this will also give us the lesson in terms of how do we reach Mars. After the next step, landing on the moon, doing its operations, how do we go to the Mars and work? So these are the important things which will be the significance of this mission. And ISRO will learn a lot, because we have also planned our Chandrayaan mission now, and in which Gaganyaan mission.
Right.
So in which we will be putting the humans into space from India, Indian Space Research Organization. So we learn a lot as well. So this is a very important historic milestone, I would say.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir, for all that information and that perspective into this very historic milestone that we are in fact tracking. We appreciate your time.